Good evening. Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Wednesday evening. Welcome to the Wives Matter Network. I am your host and founder of this amazing network, Pastor Andrea Hudson. And I'm so glad that you have tuned in tonight. And I know that we've got some ladies that are already on. So go ahead and greet us in the comments. Do me a favor, greet me in the comments. I also want you to I want you to share, and I want you to repost tonight's discussion. Tonight is going to be very impactful and very powerful. So go ahead and greet me in the comments, and because I want to see who's on tonight. We're going to discuss, we're going to engage, we're going to talk, we're going to communicate, we're going to do what women do best: talk. So go ahead and comment in the section and do me the utmost favor. Share and repost tonight's discussion on your page, on your platform. Get the word out. We want as many shares as we can possibly have tonight, because tonight's discussion is going to be a very transparent, vulnerable one that's going to bring healing and insight. So go ahead and share and repost tonight's discussion, and then go ahead and greet me in the comments. I see Tasha Jean. Hello to you, woman of God. I see Bougie Doll. Grace and peace to you. I see Janine Roseman. Hello, woman of God. Good to see you. Dorothy Harris is on. Angela Michelle is on. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Go ahead and continue to share. Continue to repost, continue to greet me in the comments. Let's get our numbers up. I'm excited about tonight. Welcome again to the Wives Matter Network, where we remind you that you matter to the world. So if this is your first time, joining us on a Facebook Live discussion, we're also live on YouTube. I want to just kind of give you just an intro on what the Wives Matter Network really is. Hello, Tiffany Hill. Hello, Alexis Jackson. All right, I see you guys are coming on. So the Wives Matter Network is an online empowerment membership and network that was successfully launched by the grace of God in the month of March this year. Woo! And I'm telling you, it has been an amazing, amazing community of support, empowerment. Those that are connected and enrolled into the network receive empowerment videos. We also launched our Wives Matter Network magazine. Oh, who has the magazine? Let me know if you have the magazine. Go ahead and put in the comments and say, I have my copy. I have my copy. I want to see those who have the magazine. So those that are part of the network receive a complimentary digital magazine. We have monthly pop-ups. We're about to do an in-person meet and greet this summer. And this is a worldwide network, a community, a safe haven community for wives, aspiring wives, wives to be, mothers, those that are wives in business, wives in ministry, pastors' wives, business wives, politician wives, those that are single and want God to bless them with marriage. This community is for you as well. We take the time to empower all ages, all stages of marriage and family. And we want to remind you that you matter. Why? Because as a wife, as a woman who wears so many hats, all of us, sometimes we get lost in the shuffle. Sometimes we forget that we have worth, we have value, and that we matter. And that's what the Wives Matter Network is all about. It's a great community that we would love for you to partner with and connect with. So if this is your first time hearing about the Wives Matter Network and you're like, yeah, I need something like that in my life, I want you to go to wivesmatternetwork.com. wivesmatternetwork.com. And there is information on the website where you can join and enroll into the network. You'll be glad that you did. You'll be glad that you did. You'll need this in your life, even if you're single and you're saying, yeah, I'm thinking about marriage. I'm praying about marriage. And I just kind of want to be proactive. I want to get into a community that's going to help, prepare me. Of course, you'll never be fully prepared for marriage, but this community does prepare you. We talk about what to look for in a mate. We talk about creating balance in your home, building your home. We talk about issues like communication and, sex and all of that good stuff. Yeah, we matter. We matter. Our hands are in everything. So I want you to join the web network tonight, wivesmatternetwork.com. If you join tonight, whether you're a subscriber or an enroller, you're going to receive a free complimentary gift from the network. If this is your first time joining or enrolling, you're going to receive something. I can't tell you what it is, but you'll love it. You'll receive a complimentary gift. And then, of course, we want you to not just stop at the subscribers level, but we want you to fully enroll into the network, which is a year-long empowerment, year-long meetings and great things to keep you motivated as a wife, as a mother, as a woman. So go ahead today and join the wivesmatternetwork.com. All right. I see the ladies are still coming in. This is awesome. This is awesome. So, and we've got ladies from all around the world. I see we got ladies from Grand Rapids. We got ladies from California. We've got ladies from Atlanta, Georgia. This is amazing. So continue to share and repost tonight's discussion because we want someone to be blessed. Well, we're going to go right into our discussion. We do not want to prolong the time. We've got a lot of ground to cover and a short time to do it. But I'm so grateful to God for these two power-packed women that will be joining me tonight that will discuss our topic. And our topic tonight is handling postpartum depression. Postpartum depression. When I did this Facebook post a few weeks ago and I asked who has ever dealt with postpartum depression, the response was overwhelming. I just began to read every response and I also began to pray. While I was reading, I was praying for those that were responding. We have some mothers that are still going through postpartum depression. Some that say, I'm out of postpartum depression by the grace of God. Some that are saying that it's still kind of difficult. I'm still kind of feeling it. I'm still tunneling through. And I knew then that this is something that we had to discuss through the Wives Matter Network. These are the type of discussions that we will have to bless everyone. Last month, we talked about divorce and starting over. And tonight, we're going to talk about handling postpartum depression. Whether you're a wife, a mother, or know of someone that could be dealing with this, because a lot of people don't talk about it. Some women are still ashamed and embarrassed by it. This is why I want you to share and repost tonight's discussion, because you never know who may need to hear this. So tonight, we're going to dive into this discussion. We want you to engage in the comments. We want to hear from you. If you've got questions, we're going to try our best to answer them, but we definitely want you communicating and engaging in the conversation. So I am going to bring our first guest on tonight, and I'm so glad that she agreed to be a part of tonight's discussion. In fact, she was one of the ladies that responded, and she's very near and dear to my heart, and I trust her. I do. I trust this woman. And so I immediately reached out to her and asked her if she would be a part of the discussion to share some of her testimony. And she's a powerful woman of God. She's a spiritual daughter of mine and my husband. And I'm just going to read just a little bit of her bio. She is Ivory Ector, born in Chicago, raised on the south side of Chicago. She gained life skills that positioned her for success and prominence at an early age. She is an ordained elder of the Powerhouse Chicago under the leadership of myself and Archbishop William Hudson III. She has served in several capacities. She is an educated woman. She holds a bachelor's of science in business management administration. She also has a master's of science in human services and organizational structure and leadership. She is an author. She is an empowerment coach, and she is a wife and a mother. Won't you help me in welcoming our first guest, empowerment coach, Ivory Ector?
Hello, everyone. What's going on? Hey, lady, how you doing?
Hey, empowerment coach. And I failed to even tell our audience the name of your organization, which I love. When you announced it a few years ago, I was like, this is her. Tell us the name of your organization.
Achieving Breakthroughs Incorporated, where we empower you to break through.
Woo! I love it. Come on, tagline. Achieving breakthroughs. Thank you, Coach Ector, for coming on tonight and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Story with us and insight. I know it's going to really bless the people. So let's continue. We're going to bring up our next guest on tonight. Reginique Solomon is a dedicated PhD student, a licensed social worker and therapist who resides in Dallas, Texas, with her husband, Apostle Taurus Solomon. She's originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, where she received her bachelor's from the University of Louisiana, her master's of social work from Clark Atlanta University. She is currently pursuing a doctorate degree of social work from Walden University, and we're so excited that she is here. She's a private practice therapist and wellness coach, empowering individuals to heal from trauma, strengthen their relationships, and walk in their God-given purpose. Let us welcome our guest tonight, Reginique Solomon.
Hey everyone, so glad to be here. So excited to chat with you all tonight. Thank you so much, Lady Andrea, for the opportunity.
Oh, listen, thank you for agreeing to be a part of tonight's discussion. I'm so excited to have both of you ladies. And so we're going to get right into the discussion. Listen, ladies that are watching, again, I want you to share and repost. I want you to engage in the comments. We want to spread the word. We want some woman, some mother to be healed tonight and let them know that they are not alone. So we're talking about handling postpartum depression. Reginique, from your expertise in the mental health field, can you describe what postpartum depression is and its symptoms?
Absolutely. So when you think about postpartum depression is a form of clinical depression. Many people are familiar with depression, right? That is a diagnosis that you receive within after 2 weeks of persistent feelings of sadness, irritability, hopelessness, things of that nature. Well, postpartum depression is a form of depression that occurs after giving birth, right? And so it typically occurs within 2 weeks after giving birth, but it can also be delayed. So there are some times where symptoms of postpartum depression won't begin to arise until months after childbirth, right? So it can develop really anytime between two weeks up until almost 18 months after after giving birth. And so when you think about the symptoms of postpartum depression, similar symptoms to clinical depression, right? And so it's this persistent feelings of sadness, irritability, hopelessness, where I don't see my life. I don't see this getting any better. Worthlessness. I'm not enough to be a mother, right? And so some of the symptoms of postpartum depression that are long lasting and severe can be irritability. Irritability is a symptom. Anger, sometimes anger surprises patients when we're going over postpartum depression. It's like, well, have you been experiencing anger? Sometimes they don't contribute that to postpartum depression, but anger is a symptom of postpartum depression. Crying spells, just this persistent crying, that can be a sign of postpartum depression. Having difficulties bonding with a newborn baby, withdrawing or isolating yourself from family or friends, not being able to sleep. Sometimes we see changes in sleep and eating patterns. So I'm sleeping too much, or I'm not sleeping enough. I'm eating too much, or I'm not eating enough, right? There can also be loss of appetite. Sometimes just this overwhelming feeling of tiredness, low energy, things of that nature. So all of those are symptoms of postpartum depression.
Wow. And I heard, I'm looking at our comments, and someone is saying up to 18 months after. They're
Yes.
asking that question.
Yes. Postpartum depression. There's such a thing as delayed postpartum depression. So, and that's what surprises people, because sometimes you think that if I have postpartum, it's gonna appear right after I give birth, and that's not the case. Sometimes it can take up to 18 months for you to start experiencing those symptoms of postpartum depression.
Wow. Now, what are the risk factors associated with postpartum depression?
Absolutely. So when you think about risk factors, some are gonna be obvious, some are not so obvious. So especially when we're talking about like Black women, we know that Black women are 3 times more likely to have some type of or experience maternal death, right, than white women in the United States, right? And so a lot of times being aware of this statistic, or being aware that you're at risk during childbirth, can heighten stress and anxiety, right, during pregnancy. That can contribute to developing postpartum depression. The problem is that a lot of research is focused on white women. It's not focused on Black women. So a lot of healthcare providers don't know what to look for when evaluating a Black woman for postpartum depression. They don't know to look at unexplained body aches. They don't know that high blood pressure can be a sign of postpartum depression, or not necessarily postpartum depression, but depression during pregnancy. And so women who experience depression or anxiety while they're carrying the child, that's a risk factor for developing postpartum depression after delivering the child. Also, if you're someone who has struggled in the past with depression or anxiety, just as an individual prior to having children or giving birth, that puts you at greater risk of developing postpartum depression. If you have a family history of depression or mental illness, so your mom struggled with depression or bipolar disorder, any mental illness, or any family member, that puts you at greater risk of developing postpartum depression. Having a child that was born with a disability, having a child that may cry more often than what is considered typical, right? We know that babies cry. We know that newborn babies cry, right? But sometimes babies cry more than usual. That can put moms at risk of postpartum depression. If you're a first-time mom, if you're worried about money, if you are experiencing some type of financial stress or low income, all of these things put you at risk of postpartum depression. And it makes sense because it's impacting your overall well-being. It's causing stress on you, it's causing anxiety on you. And so you have to look at yourself as this whole being, right? And so it's not just, when you think about postpartum depression, it's not just me having a child and I developed depression, but it's everything that led up to me giving birth. So it's maybe if I experienced a miscarriage before, it's my entire life story and how that contributes to my overall well-being. So all of these things put women at risk of postpartum depression. And men can get postpartum depression too. Dads get postpartum depression as well. I believe it's 1 in 10 dads will develop postpartum depression as well.
Wow. This is really good information, because unfortunately, and this is the reason, one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this discussion, because I know as minority women, women of color, that already we're disenfranchised as it pertains to medical benefits and what we can attain medically as women of color. And oftentimes, when you talked about those risk factors, those are things that are not always looked at and discussed with us.
Yeah.
So, Coach Ivory, I want you to come in and tell us a little bit of your story. When did you begin to notice that something wasn't right? And you have a powerful testimony. So someone that knows a little bit of your story would look at you and say, why would you go through postpartum depression? You have two amazing miracle children. So you should be all happy, because oftentimes, let's be honest, ladies, we look at other women and say, why would you be depressed? You have a miracle. You have a child. It should be a joyous occasion. So, Coach Ivory, I want you to jump in and tell us a little bit about your story with this.
Well, for a long time, I was told that, of course, that I couldn't have children. So, a very long time. So I was 18 when I was told that I would never get pregnant, of course. And moving ahead, we have two kids. But I felt it when I was able to identify that that's what was taking place. I think it was the second doctor's visit that I went to for myself, because they have to check your psyche and your mental. And so the questions that they asked, I answered correctly. Like, I'm not going to lie. If I feel a certain way, I'm going to say that's how I feel, period. I'm going to allow myself to feel it. I'm going to process it. I'm going to deal with it, and do whatever it is that I need to do. I'm not going to press it down. But it didn't ask the right questions, if that made sense. So I wasn't lying. No, I didn't feel like killing myself. No, I didn't feel like doing any of that. But I was very angry. Oh, I was angry. When I say angry, like angry, 2 seconds, I'm about to cuss angry. Like, I was very angry. I cried. And part of that was prior to Trinity, our daughter. Year before, I had a stillbirth. And so I gave birth. He was 4 months old, but his heart had stopped. And so when I was carrying him, I knew something was wrong, but I kept trying to keep the faith, hold on. So long story short, I gave birth. I literally went into contractions and everything. They had set us up for a DNC. That's what you get when you're aborting the child. But that Friday, I went into labor pains and I literally went into birth. But he had already had passed 4 weeks prior to me knowing. And so I don't think I had a nurse. I can't recall what they actually called her after that. I wasn't going to look at him. I wasn't going to name him. I wasn't going to do any of that. But in that moment, all I could do was tell God, thank you, literally. And then they said, do you want to see him? I said, yeah. Well, I found out it was a boy because I didn't know at first. And I said, yeah. And so when I looked at him, everything was there. It was fully developed. He was just about this big, though, literally. And when I came home, because they give you everything that they put the baby in, you get a death certificate and everything. And when I came home, I heard, I'm glad you looked at him. So I felt like that was God saying, had you not looked, you would have lingered more in guilt, hurt, or whatever. So I allowed myself to mourn, but I allowed myself to mourn, but I didn't know that I didn't know what grieving felt like, if that makes sense. Okay. And so going through with Trinity, I was told that I had all of these. I was high risk because of the stillbirth. And then I had high numbers of, I forgot what they said it was. So I had to keep going back. I had to poke myself with needles twice a day. That was really bothering me. I mean, when I say and the strongest is my mind, that was bothering me. And then they said that I didn't have high blood pressure, but because of the miscarriage, I could develop clots while I'm pregnant. I could develop preeclampsia. So they were telling me all of these different things while I was pregnant. And then I have to deal with, is she going to make it? Is she going to make it? Is she going to make it? So I got the humanity of me asking that question, and
Yeah.
I'm dealing with my emotions, but then I have my spirit trying to build me and encourage me, but I'm allowing myself to think from the natural way. And so when I went to that second one and I answered those questions, but I came home, I was crying. I would go in the bathroom and I would just cry. And then I was mad at my husband. I was like, you don't believe postpartum is real. You don't believe I can laugh now, but it
Yeah.
wasn't funny then.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't believe it. You don't believe it because the doctors, blah, blah, blah. And I was really upset. Then it turned toward my son. So the littlest thing that he did, I would say, stop. No, Judah, stop. My patience was this. I didn't have an ounce of it. And I remember one day, and I debated if I was going to share this or not, but I remember one day, Trinity cried more. Judah ain't never cried like Trinity cried. And she's like whiner. I walked out of the room and I remember the nurse. I can't remember she's a case manager. That's what they call her. So
Okay.
I had a case manager. She checked on me. She always asked questions. This was her job because of everything that happened.
Yes.
And I walked out of the room and I said, the thought came to my mind. This is how women who have children end up putting their children in the oven or going somewhere and then they're saying, where's my child, and thinking somebody took their child, which what really happened in that moment, you lost it. You
Yes.
were no longer you. Your mind left you, and all you could think about was the noise, the irritation. And they do something to their child, and when they come to, they don't remember
They
doing
don't
it.
remember doing
And
it.
I sat at my living room table and I said, "Not me, God." That's what I said. That's all I could say because I didn't feel like putting my baby in the oven. But
Yeah.
that moment, that thought came. This is how this happens to them. So I said, what's the difference between me and the mother that just snaps?
Yes.
I didn't. All I had, and I'm not lying. All I said was, let this man be in me that is in Christ Jesus. I will not break. Do what the doctor said. Do what your case manager say do. She said, let her cry.
Wow.
Sometimes we're so busy listening to the rhetoric of the noise. He jumping around,
Yes.
she crying. You really don't know what's going on. I'm still learning how to be a mama. You know what I'm saying? He was only 3. I'm still learning this thing. And I just let her cry. And I sat there. But I started to do that too much. Because as Renika said, I was detaching myself
Wow.
because it was becoming, I'm an organized person. I figure things out. I strategize. That's what I do. I couldn't figure this out. So I was emotionally drained. I was emotionally stressed. And I felt like this ninja don't understand. I'm by myself. I had a whole husband, but I was like, I'm by myself. He don't know what it's like. Then I got this body. Then I got a hernia. Then I got a torn muscle wall. Then I still got to take these shots. And then, and then I got to still show up to work. And then I still got to cook. And then I still got to do. And I still got to do. I don't feel like I have to be strong. It wasn't that. I still had to do what needed to be done is what
You
I
had
am.
to show up. You still had to show up as a woman. You still had to show up as a wife. You still had to show up as a mother. You have a 3-year-old. You still have to show up as a leading person in your field on your job. You have people to manage. You have employees. You still got to show up. And so, thank you. Thank you, Coach Ivory, for your transparency because I know you're not by yourself. I know whomever is watching and listening can relate to that. And this is what happens. We don't talk about this enough. So, ladies that are going through this, mothers that are going through this, they're feeling like there's no hope. They're feeling like that they're by themselves and they're feeling like, I should be happy. Why am I having crying spells? Why am I irritable? Why am I angry? and,
Wow.
and as quiet as it is kept, even in ministry, even in church, we show up, we have on this big face, we act like everything is okay. But when we go back home, we're dreading to go back home. We're dreading to go back to that unfamiliar space. We're dreading to go back to that space where we feel like we're going to lose it. Reginique, I want you to talk about the complications or effects of untreated postpartum depression.
Absolutely. And I just want to echo what you said. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. Everything that you hit on is literally what I hear in therapy sessions with clients. And it's one of the things that you said, that you mentioned, that were debating about whether or not to share, like the thought of, this is why, this is how I now I see, or this is how sometimes people, our mothers, do some things that maybe back then I was like, how could they do that? Like, how could they lose their mind, right? It's so much, right? And so those emotions or those thoughts really lead to the guilt and the shame, which causes women not to speak out about it, which causes them not to try to reach out to support. So I'm glad that you shared that, because I really do believe that it freed a lot of women who may be experiencing some of the same thoughts. It's not you. It's not you. It's stress, right? And you can get through it. One of the things that I always say is all symptoms of postpartum are treatable, and you can recover from postpartum depression. And so when you think about untreated postpartum depression, what are some of the potential complications, right? One of the things that you mentioned, Elder Ivory, disconnecting from your children. There can be relationship strains when you are dealing with untreated postpartum depression. It can impact the way that you bond with your baby. If you have this persistent thought that's telling you, I'm not a good enough mother, right? How is that going to make you feel? That's going to make you feel discouraged, right? And so then how are you going to respond to that? You're probably going to disengage, because if there's a thought that's telling me that I'm not a good mother, then I probably am going to disengage from the baby, so that I'm not trying to take care of him. Because if I take care of him and I'm already feeling like I'm not enough, if he cries, then that's going to reinforce what I'm already thinking. I'm not enough. This baby doesn't like me. This baby isn't attaching itself to me, right? All of these things are what I hear in therapy sessions. So untreated postpartum depression can impair the relationship that you have with your child. And what does that do? When that relationship with your child is impaired, that newborn baby, that can impact that child's development. Early attachment is so important, and it really impacts us long term. And so if that child has a mom who is disengaged, who's disconnected, who's not nurturing, who's not, attentive and present, how is that going to impact your child? And that's a way that, we continue out these destructive cycles in family systems. That's how we see a lot of, curses being perpetuated in generations. Another complicated of untreated postpartum depression for you as the mom who's not getting the help that she needs, that's prolonging suffering. Depression doesn't just go away by itself. It's going to get worse, right? And the symptoms are going to get more intense. So if you're not receiving treatment for postpartum depression, those symptoms are going to persist for an extended period of time, and it's going to cause you to experience unnecessary suffering when there is help that's available. Another another way that untreated postpartum depression can affect the mom is, it can affect not even just the mom, but it can affect the entire family system. If I am depressed and I am irritable, if I am angry, every little thing everybody do in my family is going to get on my everlasting nerve. I'm going to be snapping at the drop of the dime. I'm going to create such a chaotic environment for my family. That's not just impacting you, that's impacting everyone that's around you, right? It can also cause you to, as I said, it can impact that child's development, and it can also put you at greater risk of developing other mental health issues. So if I have untreated postpartum depression, we have to think about it. Postpartum depression is just one way that your body can respond. And it's called perinatal mood disorders. There are a gamut of mood disorders that you can develop after having birth. So it can open up that door for you to develop other mental health disorders if this one remains untreated.
There is a question on In the comments, someone is asking, how long can symptoms of untreated postpartum linger? Can it last for years?
So it can. I mean, I would say that it can. So how long can symptoms of untreated postpartum linger? The symptom, they may go away on their own, but they're going to be more severe, and you're going to see them in other areas of your life. So if you have untreated postpartum depression, right, irritability, anger, hopelessness, helplessness, while you may think that those symptoms have gone away, they haven't gone away. They just changed their face. So they may show up, different in relationships. They may show up in a way that I, approach my career or my coworkers. So those symptoms can last for a very long time, and you can go a very long time, years, of having these symptoms, in the same way that you can experience depression and just have this ongoing depression that lingers for much of your life. It's the same way.
Someone is saying in the comments, she says, so true. My therapist told me after a certain point, it's no longer postpartum depression. If it lingers after a while, you're just depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Coach Ivory, you have a son and you have a daughter. Did you experience any signs of postpartum depression with your first child, with your son?
No. It's weird. It's weird, strange, whatever you want to call it. But I remember, I don't try to spiritualize stuff, but I have to be honest with you all. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I remember while I was pregnant, hearing, the enemy wants you to be depressed. And I just kept hearing that, right? And so I was like, what? Like, it had never been pregnant. So in my mind, I'm like, you tripping, you being deep. This is what I said to myself. And I went to sleep. I am a dreamer. So when I went to sleep, it was like spirit trying to like attack me. And it was really, it was really heavy. And it was, the word depression was all over. And I remember waking up, and I had reached out to, I have a sister friend, she's a therapist. So I reached out to her, and then I told my best friend and my other two friends, my other two brothers in Christ, okay, listen, this is what's trying to happen. I don't even know what depression looked like. I didn't know. I was like, I don't know what depression looked like. I don't know if I've ever even felt it just in my life, period. I don't really know. I was like, so just keep me covered while I'm going through, because I don't even know what to expect, because I don't even know what stress really feel like. And I've probably been stressed. I don't know. You know what I mean? I was really being honest. And so everything happened, and I embraced it. It was just a different emotional feeling. Like I said, majority of the stuff, if I'm I do what stress me now. It's an emotional, but I just embraced it. It was different. It was a calmness, after it. It was no health scares, like no complications, no high risk, all these different things that took place. I was 38, even though they considered that high risk, but I'm 40 with, 42 with Trinity, 42 having her. So the whole gamut changed for me. Yeah. So with him, and then I had time, it was just, things were different at work. When I went back to work with her, I didn't have staff. She's one. I still don't have staff. So can you imagine, going back to work last year, June 13th, no staff, and it's about to be June 13th again. So just all those, you can't breast pump, and you really want to breast pump because you really didn't get a chance to do it with him. So now you're mad and you're emotional. It's just, so with him, and it just seemed like I just could feel strength. I didn't get a chance to question if I was good or not, a good mother or not. He was so calm. The crying, it wasn't a crying thing. It was just like, he was here and just, he bouncing off the wall now, but he was just.
So let me ask you this, Coach Ivory, in your, before, I guess, let me phrase it like this. Had you heard of the baby blues? Before you got pregnant, had you heard of the baby blues?
I heard it, but I don't know what it means. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So I didn't know what it meant. I'm saying, I know what it means now. I didn't know what it meant then.
You didn't.
I didn't care.
So when you had with the birth of your daughter, did it ever resonate with you, even when the case manager was asking you these questions? It never really resonated with you that you were going through postpartum depression.
And she was irritating me.
The case manager was.
Yes, she was calling too much. She
Wow.
called me so much. I didn't get no money. It was a few times I just was like, I'm not talking to you today. You getting on my nerves.
Wow.
She was as sweet as she could be, but she was getting on my nerves.
Now that is very interesting. So you have this, and I believe,
I'm sorry, but she was.
I believe in divine placement. I believe that God divinely put her in your life at that moment, even though the questions and the phone calls were probably getting on your nerves. But I believe that God was strategically doing that to allow you to see that something wasn't quite right.
Because it didn't register for real. I stopped ignoring her, right? And then I finally asked her, like, I ignored her 5 times, no lie. And so I finally was like, you got to talk to her. This is her job. And so when I tell you I broke down, ooh, you could have bought me for a piece of dirt out for some soil. I broke down. I cried and cried. She was asking the right questions. She was asking the right questions, first of all. But I guess 5 times ignoring her, she figured it. But I cried so hard. And that's when I knew, like, oh, chick, you in there. It's there. Oh, this is what it is. You in the vehicle. You in the vehicle. I'm like, I'm in the vehicle.
If you don't mind, Coach Ivory, can you tell us some of the questions she were asking? Like, what were some of the questions she was asking you?
How are you eating? And then I'm greedy. So I'm like, why you don't you supposed to ask that the baby? She's like, how are you eating? I was like, I eat like I eat. This how I'm talking to her this time. I eat like I eat. She was like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I eat. But did you eat breakfast? No, I ain't eat breakfast. What did you eat? Oh, no, I ain't eat that neither. She was like, oh, okay. Okay, what does okay mean? Which clearly means she was jotting down or whatever, assessing me, so to speak. But in that moment, I'm not thinking about that. So she asked that question. She was like, so what have you been thinking about today? And I was like, I'm at work. I ain't really been thinking because I'm at work. This sounds
Reginique,
terrible.
Does this sound familiar, Reginique?
So I was really avoiding truth, and I like truth.
Yes.
And everybody comprehends different. And so to piggyback off the beginning with what Renika said, she said some of these things aren't tailored for our ethnicity, and so you're asking me, I'll give the way I'm trying to explain it. They ask you one of these assessment questions for the kids. If you put the Cheerio in the bottle and you shake it, does your child try to get it out? First of all, what am I putting the Cheerio in the bottle for? So to me, I'm not doing that. She's 6 months. I don't know what I'm not doing that. Ask me something simple, like if you put a Cheerio in the bowl, is she grabbing it out? So that's kind of how I was viewing the questions.
Yes.
Like it wasn't, I can't honestly answer you without you asking me the right question. So I'm irritated because they're not making sense. These are your clinical questions. Come from somewhere else and ask me, like, have you ever, like my doctor said, Avery, did you feel like leaving? I said, yeah. I was about to leave them kids in that house. My husband gonna come home. And I said, y'all know the word I said. He's gonna come home and them kids gonna be in that house by themselves. And she said, what was you gonna go? I said, I don't have no idea because I ain't had nowhere to go. But I had that thought, but she got right to the point. She was picking at me, and so I was like, well, I'm at work. I'm thinking about work. She was like, what is that? That's work, And not to downplay her, I know you have a series of questions, but right off the back, if I would have had our sister here and she would have came out how she came out the door talking about, y'all said this, I would have just opened up. I was ready to interrupt her and say, see, girl, that's what I'm talking about right there. What you said? That's what I want to do. Everybody different though, so I let her do her job. But, at the end, she did ask me, how did she do? And I did tell her, I said, well, you were beating around the bush and that annoyed me. And so I have to feel safe enough to avail. That's vulnerable. I'm vulnerable. So let's think about it. all Black women aren't strong women, even though that's what they say.
Yes.
However, I am strong, but I don't mind being vulnerable. But if you don't make the environment conducive for my weakness,
That's
then
it
guess
there.
what I'm gonna do?
That part.
I ain't got time for the mulberry bush. See, we ain't this thing. You ain't no man that we trying to make something happen. No, you talking business. You got to come straight with it. And I did tell, I didn't tell her like that, but I did tell her like you were going around and that wasn't working for me. So it's like you were trying to get something out of me, but I didn't really know how to answer you because I couldn't hear what I needed to hear to
Yes.
trust you, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. You know what, Reginique, I want you to come in because Coach Ivory is saying a lot of good stuff. And I know as a
I'm
parent,
sorry, y'all.
no. Are you listen, let me just park right here. Those of you that are watching, are you being blessed? Those of you that are listening, are you being blessed? I want you to put in the comments. Let us know because I'm seeing some comments periodically. I'm seeing the ladies comment, but I need to know, is this okay? Wonderful. I see somebody said this is good. Makes good sense. Absolutely. Yes. That's what I want to hear because we want to make sure that we're impacting tonight. So Reginique, as a family therapist, can you relate to what Coach Ivory was saying about that vulnerable space? Talk to us about that when dealing with women that are going through postpartum depression.
Absolutely. So for any, I'm off mute. I just wanted to make sure I was off mute. For any woman, and not even just in postpartum, when you're working with people, you have to create a safe environment for people to experience, to even feel comfortable with being vulnerable. A lot of times we're working with people who have had their trust abused. A lot of times we're working with people who have experienced disappointment in relationships. What do? We shut down. We learn how to be self-sufficient. We learn how to be independent. I'm going to learn how to get it all by myself and I'm never going to need help. Until you are dealing with something like postpartum depression, it's like, okay, but I need some help because I'm at my wit's end. A lot of times that's when we see patients even picking up the phone to call the office, even wanting to schedule an appointment. Most times we're not going to reach out until we're at our wit's end. Just being honest, we're not going to reach out until we're in a crisis. And so when you're getting, these individuals in your practice and in your office, you have to build that rapport. You have to ask the right questions. Sometimes you can't come out of the gate asking these questions because if I don't know you, even if you're a case manager, even if you licensed, I appreciate all of that, but I don't even know you enough to open up like this. I'm having these thoughts in my head about leaving my kids, like thoughts that I've never experienced before. And
You
you
come
want
and take my kids.
it doesn't work like that. You have to build some type of rapport with me. You have to build some type of trusting relationship with me. How do I know that I'm not going to say the wrong thing and you're going to try to lock me up? Who knows? It's so much. And especially when you're dealing with maybe people who don't have experience with having a therapist, with a mental health provider, or people who have had bad experience with healthcare providers, i.e. Black people. We're not going to come in and just air out everything, right? And so you have to build that rapport. That takes time. That's not the first time I meet you, I'm going to ask you these questions. Now I am going to assess to make sure you're safe, to make sure baby's safe, but those more in-depth questions about how you're functioning on a day-to-day, that may come in the second or the third session.
I've got a question on the floor tonight. Someone is asking, after experiencing loss of a child prior to becoming pregnant, shortly thereafter, do you find the factors of experiencing postpartum greater?
I'll go first, and then I know Elder Ivory can chime in on that. But yes, that's one of the risk factors of developing postpartum depression, miscarriage, child loss. When, as I mentioned before, it's a lot of times when you think about postpartum, as individuals, sometimes we can just like compartmentalize things. And so we think we put postpartum in this box and it's like, well, this is something I experienced between me and the baby. That's not how it works. In developing postpartum depression, you're looking at everything that has happened to you as an individual prior to giving birth. It's just that maybe these symptoms arise after giving birth. The birth of the child may have exacerbated symptoms that were already there. So yes, experiencing a miscarriage, experiencing child loss, right? Having a traumatic childhood experience, all of these things, if they have not been processed, if they have not been, dealt with, they can position you to be at greater risk for developing postpartum depression. Even having a high risk pregnancy, that's going to position you at greater risk of having postpartum depression, because there's all of this worry, this stress, this anxiety. I have so much going on, and now I have this baby. My hormones are out of whack. I'm learning how to adjust as a new mom. My identity's changing, my body's changed. I still have to show up, just as Elder Ivory mentioned. All of these things contribute to postpartum depression.
Elder Ivory, can you talk a little bit on how it affected your marriage?
That's good.
I didn't like my husband.
Period.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Now, let me tell you what I said. I
laughing,
said,
but-
Lord, if they ask me something about my marriage, you have to help me to keep my husband covered. But listen,
Okay, so you did.
I felt
That's a
like
good husband, you guys. I can vouch for that. I know him personally. He's a good man. He is a good man. So
I didn't like him.
you didn't like your husband. Okay.
I felt like he was. This is what I kept saying in my mind. Why don't you Google it? Why don't you go do the research? Why don't you come see? Go do it so you can be like, yeah, she is going. You can say and I meant she be like. I meant to say it that way. Okay. Go Google it, look it up, go find out and come back and say, this is what it say. This is what you're feeling. But no, he was, let's go. And in that, I really had, like I said, I always, my sister friend is a life therapist. So of course I had those conversations with her. And instead I clearly had to sit on the couch, but in the sessions and to separate, but still learn how to coexist, but separate like it's not his fault. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Very powerful word. You said coexist. Because oftentimes with just marriage period, when women are going through some things, whether it be physically, hormonally, emotionally, mentally, and we're going through it, feeling these things and all of that, is sometimes we I know I can, attest to it myself, going through some physical challenges, and we want them to get it and they're not getting it. We feel like we're a broken record. We neglect to remember that we still have to coexist. I still got to be a wife. You still got to be a husband. Yes, I want you to understand me. I want you to feel my pain. I want you to, but we still gotta be married. So how did you and your husband work through that?
To be honest, I'm still on the ship. She said it when she first opened up, I'm not lying. Trinity's 1 now. I can honestly say that when the month of her birthday, which was March, is when I came to the ceiling of my postpartum. That's why when you said, I said, that's too much text. I ain't about to type all that. And so what happened was I don't have a problem with communicating. I'm going to say how I feel. But when I was dealing with those, I felt like he should have just known. If that makes sense. I said, you don't see my behavior change? I'm not nuts. I don't let this way, So What I realized was you do all that talking and you literally have not said to him,
yes,
I'm this. I exploded one day. I was like, you didn't ask me. Why was you didn't know I was in the bathroom crying for 2 hours. Did you ask me? Did you ask me why I don't feel sexy? Did you ask me why I ain't did this? Why I ain't came? Why I'm talking about I was all I was everywhere. And when I really had to settle myself and think, I said, you really never express the person who expressed, you never really expressed. So that wasn't there to him. But it wasn't until we're in May, like March, prior in March, that I expressed that.
yes.
And that's when I can honestly say the forgiveness, because I had an alt against him.
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
gonna lie,
Let's be
I still
honest.
did my,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I'm like, you're not there emotionally for me. So that's when I started to heal. And, and of course he's here, so he's receptive, but it was the work that I had to do. He didn't have to really do anything. It was me, if that makes sense. I hope that
It
makes sense.
makes sense.
Okay.
Woo! We got to wrap this up. We could keep going because it's so much. Oh my goodness. Let's talk about solutions. Let's talk about resources. Let's talk about support really quickly. Rejanique, what are some solutions? What is some support resources
Mhm.
that are, available to women, especially women of color that are going through postpartum depression?
Yes. So number one is going to be get in therapy. I am a proponent for therapy. Get in therapy. Don't wait until you feel like you can no longer cope. Don't wait until you feel like the house is on fire before you go ahead and enroll in therapy. One of the sayings or slogans that we have as therapists when working with women who come in with postpartum depression is let's put out the fire before we rewire the house, because a lot of times, well, there's a reason why the house caught on fire from the beginning, right? But
Yeah.
before we do the work, the deeper work, we have to put out that fire. So what are those symptoms that you're experiencing? How can we decrease those symptoms? You want to get in therapy. Some of the available treatment options when you think about therapy, let's say you're like, I'm watching this, I'm going to call somebody tomorrow to get into therapy. Ask a therapist about cognitive behavior therapy. That's a proven, or it's what we call an evidence-based treatment approach. And it's when working with people with depression. It also works with patients who are women who have postpartum depression, right? So it's how are my thoughts impacting how I feel, and then how is that impacting what I do? And so you want to get into therapy. Elder Ivory tapped on something just about like the partner dynamics with like your spouse. Partner assisted therapy, couples therapy, marriage therapy, these are all
We
forms of
definitely went to marriage
therapy.
therapy.
These are all forms of therapy that can be beneficial when dealing with postpartum depression. Sometimes it's just a matter of educating yourself, like this live is. Sometimes it's a matter of educating yourself as to what to look out for when it comes to postpartum depression. What are some of the ways that I can cope? Peer support, group therapy. There's an organization, it's called Postpartum Support International. I actually received my perinatal mental health training from them. Great organization, free organization that provides free resources to mothers who are experiencing any mental health illness or disorder following childbirth, even before childbirth, right? So you want to be able to even get into like a support group, whether or not it's a peer-to-peer support group or it's a support group where it's led by a social worker. A lot of times, and I'm not going to say a lot of times, because people of color, we do engage in therapy, we do engage in resources, but a lot of times we're underrepresented in these spaces. Like we're not engaging in these types of resources as other people are, or other races or ethnicities are. So you want to get into like a peer-to-peer support group, even if it's a place where I can just go to vent. If I'm upset with my husband, I don't want to yell at him. Let me go join this support group. Let me, vent. Let me see what other women are dealing with. That's also a way that I can experience gratitude and joy, because I'm sitting here thinking I have the worst life ever. Everything is just crashing down. And then I join a support group and I hear somebody else is like, well,
Yeah.
their husband did this, or their spouse did this, or things are so much worse for them. So it can also be a space where you can start to experience some joy and some gratitude, because it's like, ooh, I don't have it as worse as I thought I had it. Some other ways to gain support is in terms of informal ways outside of therapy, outside of looking into those therapeutic approaches. I'll even say sometimes you'll find where medication is also recommended along with therapy. That's going to be for those cases that are more severe, right? That's going to be for those forms of depression that are most severe. But mild to moderate depression, really, you can start to see improvement within a matter of weeks. Just talking, sharing your story,
Yes.
you instantly start to feel better, right? Outside of that, some of the informal ways that you can cope better with what you're experiencing: exercise. getting out of the house, catching some sunlight. We know that vitamin D is good for us. We know that exercising produces those happy emotions, right? Makes us feel better, makes us feel like we're making active progress towards our goals. As we know, when you have children, or sometimes you can feel like you're, to some degree, you're losing your identity. So sometimes getting back to your goals, getting back to the things that matter to you. It doesn't mean that I've worked with one client who felt like after 2 months of having a baby, she was ready to go full-fledged back into her career. She was ready to launch her private practice. She was ready to do X, Y, and Z. And she was depressed because, well, I'm trying to do these things, but it's not hitting the same way it would hit before. I'm tired now. I don't have the same energy. Well, yeah, you just had a baby, right? And so readjusting my expectations. What is my capacity post-child? What do I have the energy to do post-child? What do I feel equipped to do post-child? That's sometimes small things, right? It doesn't have to be these big grand ideas. Having a healthy diet, relaxation techniques, all of which I teach: deep breathing, meditation, stretching. All of these are, ways to cope with postpartum depression. And last thing I would say is talk about it. Talk about what you're experiencing. Talk about what you're feeling. That's going to help you feel better and help you process what you're experiencing.
Wow. Ladies, have you enjoyed this tonight? I hope you have enjoyed this. Someone is saying in the comments, this is very interesting and life support for women and men to know. My century didn't know all of this info. And I think that, as a part of a younger generation, and things are more available now. We're not afraid to discuss it. We're afraid to be, we're not afraid to be open. We're feeling some type of liberation and freedom to talk about it, and that is bringing healing. All of this tonight is bringing healing. It's bringing some sort of liberation. It's also bringing deliverance. It is. Sometimes when we're talking about the supernatural and the spiritual, and we think of deliverance, sometimes it's just being open and revealing, like, hey, something is going on with me. That's the first step in deliverance. I'm not right, and I need some help. And so I would encourage those of you that are listening and watching, especially those of you that are mothers, whether you're single or married, and you are going through phases of postpartum depression, take the time to replay this, listen to it again, and write down notes. Begin to implement what each of our guests are saying. Be real with yourself, honest with yourself, and say, hey, I got to get some help. And it's okay. It's okay for me to feel this way. It's okay for me to seek help. In our last...
Can I say something really quick?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Coach Ivory.
I just wanted to piggyback and say there were a total of 7, if I could count them correctly, 7 different women, different walks of life. And I don't think they knew that they had an impact on my healing. And, for outside of the counseling that I got from my case manager, I don't think they knew that. But one of them is Nashawn. She goes to our church, but Nashawn made my clothes for me. So, because I had a hernia from Judah and then a torn muscle wall that I deal with now. And people always, oh, you're pregnant. That's annoying too, by the way. Yeah. Because you're trying to, I want my body back, right? But I got some stuff going on. So, but when you're dealing with postpartum, all that is a trigger. You know what I'm saying? But she just knew how to make the clothes, so that it would be camouflaged. That brought healing to me. I mean, I just felt beautiful. I felt alive. And then my husband was like, oh man, she did that. You know what I'm saying? And it just was, I didn't have to tell her anything. And so I would cry and tell her, oh my God, I would just go crying while she measuring me. It's crazy, I know, right? But she did. And then a few of other young ladies, and they didn't know. And I recently just took them out and I just created some little bags. And when I was telling them why I did it, they didn't even know why. I said, you all don't even know the depth of everything that I was going through, but
Hmm.
you let me release. You let me cry. You let me, every now and then it flip off. You let me, and it helped me emotionally. That
Yes.
support helped me mentally. And then you were physically there. And so I would suggest, I think she said that, like a peer group. Um, and it was the trust factor.
Yes. Hmm.
It was a trust factor. I've never heard it again. And all of them know something different about the whole entire process.
Hmm.
Wow. Coach Ivory, I want you to just, take a minute or so and minister to women that are watching, that are going through postpartum depression, those that will even listen to the replay, watch the replay. You could just take a minute or so and just minister to those women right now.
Well, I would just say that it's okay to feel.
Hmm.
Oftentimes we don't feel. We and then oftentimes we feel and we stay, but we cannot stay in our feelings. We feel, we process, we receive, and we push through. We feel, we process. Receive is the outreach component. Receiving is, if you have your faith is in God. You take that faith, you take that foundation, you receive from your spiritual, which is God, and you receive from your natural, which is the help of a physician, a therapist, a counselor. So you feel, you process, you receive, and you push forward. It is very imperative to understand that postpartum is not our fault. It's not something we did. We are perfect in every way. We are phenomenal women. We are phenomenal mothers. However, when we go through a period of transition, if the tree could say, ouch, why did you step on me? Ouch, why did you pee on me? Ouch, why did you let that dog do that right there? Then we could really see how the tree really feels when it gets no water, no sun, when the snow is on top, when ants and critters are roaming all through and around it, when there are insects pitching at the leaves and causing holes to come in those leaves. Yet, glory to your name, God, that tree still finds a way to feel, process, receive, and push through. And it continues to grow and to grow. Why? Because it's getting what it needs, although it's still receiving what it didn't ask for. And I would say to any mother, hallelujah, glory to your name, that even though you gave something, hallelujah, now you are dealing with something that you didn't even expect because I'm strong. I'm the one that do everything. I'm the one that control. I'm the CEO. I'm the boss. I'm the one everybody in my family depend on. But I'm depressed. No, it's okay. But that is not our final destination. Glory to his name. Our final destination is healing and wholeness and a stable mind. That is our final destination. Healing, wholeness, and a stable mindset. And I decree and I declare that on tonight, you will heal, you will be whole. Glory to your name, and your mind will be stable. Your emotions will be stable because you're going to feel, you're going to process those feelings, you're going to receive the help supernaturally and humanistically. They get paid for this stuff. And then you're going to push through. You're going to write your books. You're going to bring up the best kids you can. You're going to excel on your job. You're going to excel as a mother. You can cook that meal. Come on, somebody.
Yes.
You hot dogs and pork and beans is good still. And when you need to rest,
Yes.
rest.
Hmm.
I go to get my nails done at this spa. This is a beautiful spa. That's all I'm going to say, right? Love it. I spends my money in that spa. You think I'm thinking about how much it costs? Because That spa, I feel like is my oasis. I'm not a mother in that spa. I'm not a wife in that spa. I don't even believe I be in Chicago while I'm in that spa. I literally feel like I am not in the city. I am nobody but a fine 42-year-old woman who getting her nails and her toes done, and I'm paying what it costs. And I thank you for, the extra amenities that you give me with, with my fee. And I'm there for an hour and a half, and I don't belong to nobody. And that's what I leave with you. If that's your hair, be there. If it's your nails, lady said she had to go to the thing on, bro. She like shopping. She was in the shopping mall, picking stuff up. Find you again. And check this out. I'm not the 22-year-old. I'm not the 38-year-old. I'm a different me. But I'm still me and my roots, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that's all
Woo! My goodness, this is so good. Reginique, come on and close us out.
First of all, I just want to say amen, amen, amen to what you said, Elder Ivory. You went forth and it was a blessing to me as well. And I just want to reiterate what you said. A lot of times when we're working with clients in therapy, they come in so burdened, right? All of this is my fault. One of the things that I always tell moms is that you are not alone, right? You're not alone. You are not to blame. This is not your fault. And with help, you will be well. And so as Christians, we know that if we can feel it, God can heal it. There is absolutely nothing that extends beyond God's ability to heal. And so whether it's your thoughts, whether it's the way that you feel, whether it's, your confidence, whatsoever it is, you can bring it to the cross and know that you have a Father in heaven who will not leave you or forsake you. The Bible says, yet in the light of day, the eternal shows me his love. When night settles in and all is dark, he keeps me company. His soothing song, a prayerful melody to the true God of my life. Jesus is still Lord over your life. Even as you are a mother, even as you are taking on this new role as a mother, you have to remember that you are still a daughter. You are not uncovered as a mother. God knew you and formed you and fashioned you before you were even in your mom's womb. He knew that he called you to be a mom. He knew how difficult this would be for you, and he graced you for it. So even if that's asking for support, even if that's reaching out to your community, seeking information, seeking guidance, that doesn't mean that you are not equipped to be a mother. There is nothing that God blesses you with that will that will crush you. Absolutely nothing. You have more than enough to give your children. You have more than enough to give your spouse. But most importantly, you have more than enough to give yourself. A lot of times when women are embracing motherhood, some of the things that you have to heal from are the expectations that you put on yourself, the unrealistic expectations that you allow other people to put on you. Right on the internet, we see all of these pictures of motherhood. We see these snapbacks. 1 week after they didn't have a baby, they got a six-pack. That is not reality. And so I have to embrace what my life looks like. I have to embrace what God has blessed me with and know that this is a blessing. Children are a blessing. What God is doing in me is a blessing. So no, my snapback may not be physical just yet, but I'm taking care of myself. Even if that's stealing away for an hour and praying, even if that's stealing away for an hour and journaling or going out to take a walk. I'm finding ways that I can slowly reconnect with myself and know that I'm not losing myself, as Elder Ivory mentioned. I'm not losing myself. God is just adding to me because he's graced me for this. And yes, it may be a struggle. Yes, it may feel like I'm in the thick of a storm and I don't know which way is left, but God is with me and he is my anchor. And those thoughts that I think, those are not my thoughts. Those are postpartum thoughts. A lot of times we have to disconnect from those thoughts. I know who I am. I know what my identity is. My identity is rooted in Christ. I have the mind of Christ, right? Let this mind be in me that was also in Christ Jesus. I have the mind of Christ. So when I have a thought that tells me that I'm not worthy of being a mom, when I have a thought that tells me that I'm insignificant or that I'm failing or that my husband should have chose another woman because I'm not the mom that that I aspire to be, I have to remind myself that that's not God and it's not me. God is going to perform the work that he began in me. It's his grace. So I can boast in my weakness because it's his grace that is going to be put on display. So a lot of times we have to just embrace grace as moms, embrace grace. So that's my message on tonight. Embrace grace.
Woo! Somebody
Girl, you need all.
somebody put in the comments, who's cutting onions in here? I love this. Thank you both. Thank you, Coach Ivory Ector. Thank you, Reginique Solomon. If you were blessed tonight, put it in the comments. This was so helpful. I'm feeling like we need to do a part two.
I said I was going to tell you that.
We need to do a part two. We do
We
need
need
to.
it.
I really do feel like we need to do a part two. And then, even talk about single mothers in postpartum depression. That's a whole nother.
Another gadget. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother beast. And so, if you guys would like, those of you in the comments, if you would like for us to continue this and do a part two, put that in the comments as well. But I'm so grateful because I really do feel like someone was helped tonight. Some mother was helped tonight. We gave information, even for those of you that are expecting, with child, and you receive information to be proactive with. When your baby arrives. All of this is for the glory of God. Thank you all so very much. Continue to share and repost. Thank you, Reginique. Thank you, Coach Ivory Ector. I love you both dearly. We will keep you guys informed of part two of tonight's discussion of handling postpartum depression. And then we've got some other things that we're going to be bringing through the Wives Matter Network. Tomorrow is June 1st. We're at the half point of the year. So I want to encourage you that whatever God has called you to do in this year of 2023, take a hold of it. Push it through. Don't let yourself be distracted. You've got 6 months. 6 months to do what God has called you to do. I'm preaching to myself. I'm exhorting myself. 6 months of what God has called you to do. And as the woman of God said, embrace your grace. Embrace the grace that God has placed upon your life. We're going to feel what we can feel. We're going to process our feelings. We're going to receive the help that we need, and then we're going to push through. That was Coach Ivory Ector's solution. I'm going to use that. I'm taking that with me. I love you all. Remember to follow us, the Wives Matter Network, wivesmatternetwork.com. Subscribe and enroll into the community today. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of the evening. God bless.